Listen, I have to tell you something. It's a big secret. Well, except it's in the title of the video. But wait, I'm having déjà vu. Has this happened before? 3 years ago, I embarked on an incredible journey to live in Lithuania for a month and study the native language, thanks to a very special opportunity that you can learn more about in this older video. 3 years later, I've received an even more unique opportunity to go to an even more unique country to learn the language that, admittedly, probably even fewer people in their right minds would go and study. That's all coming up in this video, along with an unexpected twist, a big hurdle that I have to cross before I head there in around a week's time. That will put my language learning abilities to the test, or be my downfall. Welcome to Rhapsody in Lingo. My name is Israel and I'm moving to Iceland to learn the Icelandic language. Alright, so where do I even begin with this? This is going to be one of those videos where I ramble a lot because I have a lot to get through. I will talk about what this unique offer is, why I'm interested, and more importantly, what that big twist is, and what actions I have had to take and will have to take in order to deal with this big hurdle. Trust me, I've put a lot on the line for this project, which I will explain in a minute. So this whole thing came as sort of a shock to me. So one day, Richard Simcott, you might have heard of him, he's kind of a famous polyglot on the internet and elsewhere, randomly texted me saying, Israel, so you know Swedish, right? I was like, okay, what, are you trying to test me or anything? I know he knows Swedish. So it turns out that there was someone who is responsible for organizing one of those language summer courses in Reykjavik, Iceland, who wanted to invite someone to go and learn Icelandic for free. So Richard came to me and said, yeah, you might be interested, it might be right for you. And he was probably right, because I'm now in this stage of my life where I'm finishing my studies, don't have a full-time job yet, so this is probably the best time I could do this. I said this 3 years ago when I went to Lithuania, but 3 years has passed and I still have not finished my studies. I still don't have a full-time job, so I guess I get to do more of these things. But why? Why do they want me to go and study for free? Last time when I went to Lithuania, it was because they wanted to promote the Lithuanian language, so they would actually pay me to learn the language. Basically spent all their money on accommodation and in the country. So it was like a boost to their own economy as well. This time, it's basically the same thing, but rather than just have anyone come and learn the language, so they wanted someone who has made content about language learning, and preferably someone who is interested in smaller languages, potentially in promoting said smaller languages. And Richard was like, I know just a guy. And that's how your boy was invited. And that's the story. So I will be entering my Viking era. I will be making content about Icelandic, at least, throughout the next month. I have several ideas in mind. Did you know that Icelandic has fewer speakers than Welsh? Well, we'll get to that when we get to that. So now let's talk about why I took the offer, because it was not a small decision. I'm at the age where I start feeling a bit more apprehensive about leaving my home for like a few weeks in a row. Yeah, when I was in my early 20s, I'd gladly have done that without even batting an eye. But now I'm nearing my 30s. I'm like, oh, I kind of just want to be home and do what I want to do rather than be somewhere unfamiliar for a month. So it was a big decision. And also there was a lot of things I had to take into consideration. Like, for one, I cannot leave the UK for more than 3 months in the upcoming year. I mean, I can, but then that would mean that I get my citizenship a bit later. And I mean, it's not cheap. Like, the most expensive things are paid for, but like, I had to book the flights myself out of my own pocket, and I booked the flights like a month before the actual thing, or even less. Also, Iceland is not close to Europe. Like, it's almost North America. So that was not cheap either. Feel free to support me in the links below if you want to support this very interesting project. But why did I decide to go? Because, I mean, Icelandic is just cool, man. It's okay, let me explain what Icelandic even is. It's one of the Nordic languages. It's where the Vikings kept sailing west, and then they found this island that is not, I mean, it's not warm, but it's like not as icy as Greenland either. So obviously they made a mistake there. So they found that island, they settled it, and bam, you have Iceland. And the Vikings that stayed in Europe, at least like in Europe, ended up becoming, the Swedes, the Danes, the Norwegians, and they speak like related languages. But the special thing about Icelandic is that compared to Swedish, Norwegian, and Danish, it changed very little. I'm sensing a theme here because last time I did Lithuanian, which is one of the most conservative Indo-European languages, and then now I'm doing the most conservative Nordic language. What the fuck? The language has actually changed very little from the time when they arrived there, which was, I don't know when. I will put a date here. And that means that if you can read Icelandic fluently, what is said is that you can basically read the old Viking sagas. I imagine for them it's like reading Shakespeare. I mean, we speak English, right? When you read Shakespeare, there is a bit of a, hurdle. There's a bit of difficulty. It's different words, different grammar, slightly different style, but it's understandable. But Shakespeare is only like a couple hundred years ago. Old Norse is ages and ages ago. Again, don't know how long ago, but very long ago. So that's what Icelandic is most famous for. Another thing it's famous for is linguistic purism. I don't know if I'm going to make a video about that, but linguistic purism is when someone who is somehow in control of the language, such as the language board or the government or some sort of university, intentionally purges foreign words from a language. In English, we have an insane amount of foreign words, and we still keep bringing in new ones because we're that tolerant of a language. Whereas Icelandic was like, nah, we'll make our own. So it's not only French and Latin words that they purged, words that are like all over the European continent. Like in English, we have confirmation, information, those shun words, very Latin, very French. They purged all of those. They purged the Greek ones like music. So I'm aware of what music is in Icelandic because I'm a musician. I'm a composer, by the way. Hello, that's me. Subscribe to my music channel. Music in Icelandic is, I think, tónlista, if I'm not mistaken. So, and tone is tone, which is also an English word. Lista is like art, so like the art of tones. That sounds like my upcoming talk in the polyglot gathering. But that one's about linguistics. They also purge like newer words, like for computers, spreadsheets, those things. They made up their own things. The Icelandic word for computers like tölva, right? It's something like a math wizard or something, instead of a machine that computes or does maths. So that's very cool. But that's also a difficult thing, because that brings us to the next point I'm trying to make, which is I speak Swedish. I was basically fluent in Swedish when I lived in Sweden over 10 years ago. And Swedish, as I established, is very close to Icelandic. So in one way, it's not going to be too difficult because I already speak a very closely related language. Sometimes I joke that, Swedish, Norwegian, Danish are basically like Icelandic simplified. So I'm just going from that to Icelandic traditional. And that involves like adding all the old cases in, lots of declensions, lots of conjugations that the Scandinavian languages have given up on, and so on and so forth. That's the easy part. I shouldn't have said that's the easy part, because there's lots of grammar. The easy part is that there's lots of things in common with Swedish, which I already know very well. So I know I'm going to have a rough idea what it's about. The hard part is lots of words are not going to be the same because Swedish has all the French words, the German words, the English words that Icelandic have decided to do away with. And the last reason I want to do this course is because I've already studied some Icelandic. Fun fact, if you look at the very first video on this channel, which I assume most of you have not seen, I spoke Icelandic in it. I just did it for fun. I went to this website called Icelandic Online. It's a very old looking website, but I went through like one level of it and I enjoyed it a little bit. So I included Icelandic in my first ever video where I spoke a certain number of languages. And then I just stopped learning it. But now what's interesting is I speak Welsh. I mean, you might think, what does that have to do with Icelandic? There is a lot in common between Welsh and Icelandic. It's like someone just copied someone's homework. Now, we have a problem. The course is in Swedish. And I haven't basically spoken Swedish for the past 10 years. And I can't speak it at all. And that's really bad because currently my Swedish sounds like this.
Jag kan inte prata svenska så bra för att jag har inte pratat jag är inte njutt och använt det svenska talet är 2016.
Every time I speak Swedish, my brain tries to go into Welsh as soon as it can. For some reason, it just cannot contain both Swedish and Welsh in the same brain. Probably because they sound, in a way, quite similar. I think like the melody is similar. So that means I will really have to brush up my Swedish in a very short space of time. Less than a month. Actually, by the time of filming, 2 weeks or a week and a half. And even a decade ago, when I was at the peak of my Swedish, I struggled to study in Swedish. Like, I was an exchange student. I did different courses in Swedish. One of them was fine. Like, I did phonetics in Swedish. That was okay because it's mainly just learning information. But I did another course in Swedish, which was about like music and society. And that one really fucked with me because we had to do lots of reading in English and then we had to discuss them in Swedish. Very complex ideas and arguments and discussions in a language that I had learned for a couple of months. So I gave up back then. This time, I think it's going to be half-half. I'm not discussing very complex topics with people in Swedish. I'm learning Icelandic through Swedish, which should be okay. Hello, Editor Israel here, 2 weeks into my stay in Reykjavik. Yes, spoiler, sorry, this video is coming out like really late. I'm already in Reykjavik. Anyway, I just wanted to tell past Israel that you're absolutely wrong when you said you wouldn't be discussing anything complex. Not in class, no, but like the people I'm living with, we've been talking about politics like all day long. And we just talked about like, I don't know, climate action and all that. And if you guys watching want to know how that turned out for me and my speaking skills, wait for my learning updates. They would probably explain grammar and things in Swedish to me. They might assume that I am a Nordic person, which I am not, so I might have to catch up with some things there. I mean, I have lived in Sweden, so maybe I kind of count. But there are some very important advantages that I couldn't say no to. For one, as I said, Icelandic is very close to Swedish, and that doesn't just make it easier to learn, but that also means that I'm going to skip a lot of things that, let's say, a monolingual English speaker would have to learn in order to learn Icelandic, like some word roots or sentence structures or how words are formed and so on and so forth. Like when I did the Lithuanian course, Lithuanian is not like directly related to Polish, but it has a lot in common with Polish, which I speak fluently. That course was taught in English, which means that when I went to the course, I was being taught a lot of things that I already knew, like what cases were. So if I learn Icelandic through Swedish, not just like self-learning, but actually go to a course that is taught in Swedish, the course is presumably going to skip a lot of stuff that they assume I know as a Swedish speaker, which is great. The second thing is, I really want motivation to brush up my Swedish because, as I said, I haven't spoken it for a long time. I kept telling myself, I want to brush it up, I want to get better, I want to improve, I want to get it back. I just never did, but now I actually have to. Like, I'm forced to do it. I need to take this course in a short space of time. And also when I'm there, I will be presumably hanging out with Swedish speakers, which is great for immersion. You know, the hardest thing about learning Swedish is trying to get Swedes to speak Swedish to you. But now that I'm in a course taught in Swedish, where everyone's a Swedish speaker, that problem has been solved. So that is amazing. I can finally get my Swedish back to like a good C level, hopefully. So that's a full story. Now I just have to get really good at Swedish in a short space of time. How am I going to do it? Well, I'll let past Israel explain that to you.
So the main thing I've been doing to relearn Swedish is listening to podcasts, because as I always say, I'm a big believer of, input. Not as a way of learning necessarily, but as a way of consolidating and strengthening sort of mental connections in the head. So what I've started doing is bombard myself with podcasts in Swedish.
All right, I've got a 1 hour commute coming up, maybe like 15 minutes. What I'm gonna do is I'm gonna find the Swedish podcast to put on. I used to have all these in my podcast account. I used to listen to them. It's just been a long time. I'll just grab a random documentary and there we go, downloaded.
And it was such a weird feeling because, for one, I immediately understood pretty much as I did 10 years ago. My understanding hardly slipped. All the words I knew 10 years ago, when I heard them, they would like fire off in my head right away without even a delay. It's like they got dragged right out of the depths, back into, you know, the realm of the living. And that was a really weird and interesting feeling. And there were even some words that I had forgotten that I knew. Like, I didn't know I knew the words. I'm like, oh wait, yeah, I knew that word 10 years ago. I totally forgot that word existed. Then when it came up, it's like, yeah, I know it. Easy peasy. Quite quickly, within like just half an hour of listening to Swedish, easily dozens of words have come back into my consciousness, like from the back to the front. It's a bit like how they say, I think it's maybe Luca Lambariello who says that, when you learn a language to a good B2, you never lose it. It always comes back when you need it. And I think that's exactly what's happening now. So now my active Swedish vocabulary is currently, I guess, a few dozen. A few thousand passive, a few dozen active, but like it's really quick to convert the passive into the active. And so what I would do while I was on the bike and listening to the podcast was kind of shadowing.
Svårt hitta ett välfungerande sätt vara språkpolis.
So I wasn't doing full shadowing, as in like listen to things and then repeat everything, which is a thing that I sometimes do. But in this case, it's more like getting my mouth used to it again. It's more like, oh, there's a certain word. Either I want to practice saying that word, using it in a sentence, or I want to practice like physically saying those sounds. I would just repeat certain words or phrases or sentences while I was listening to the podcast. I did notice that the muscle memory is pretty much there. Like the vowels in Swedish, they're quite specific, as some people have said. The See, that took no effort to get the back into position. It's just there. Vi har en bra skola. What else? The ä, o. They just settled into place, which was again a really weird feeling when your muscles haven't done that for a long time, but then suddenly, it's like riding a bike for the first time in 10 years. Pretty much like that. Like you don't forget how to ride a bike, but you hop on one and like it's like, wait, whoa, yeah, I can do this. Another thing that I really wanted to make sure I relearn was like the little phrases, the filler words, like liksom, typ. Those are things that I was really used to saying back when I was using Swedish in my everyday life. And there was one time when I said that to someone and then they were like, oh wow, you sound really natural. I don't have that habit anymore, so I'm trying to pick that back up. Some of the phrases would be like så att säga, so to say. Very, very common idioms like tack på förhand, so thanks in advance. Visst, certainly, visst. Yeah, these things I wanted to make sure I relearn really quickly, more so than any other words, because I want to sound natural when I start to talk to people. What else have I done? I have tried speaking Swedish to myself, especially there was one night when I was like lying in bed ready to go to sleep, and then I was like, okay, I'm gonna talk to myself for half an hour in Swedish. Jag ska prata med mig själv på svenska i en halvtimme. This is so hard. When I needed some words, some of them would take like a good few seconds. Some of them would just come back right away. Like when it's in the context. And that's why I believe like how memory words when it comes to vocabulary is like in your brain you have like nodes of one word, and then there is a link to another word that will show up in the same context, or the two words are commonly used together. So you have a link between them. So normally when I try to think, oh, how do I say this word in Swedish? I can't come up with a word right away, but once I start a sentence that is related to this word, a sentence where you would normally use this word, that link would activate between the two words. That word would come to me right away when I need it. So the second way I've been also practicing my Swedish is, other than input, I'm doing some output. One of the ways I've been outputting is writing my diary in Swedish. So since 2025, I've been writing my diary in Welsh. That's done very well for my Welsh outputting skills. But now I was like, okay, it's time to move on from that, so I can dedicate more of my time, 10 minutes, 20 minutes every day, to outputting in Swedish. So I started writing my diary in Swedish last week. I haven't done a lot of it. I'm not extremely consistent with writing my diary. but that's like a base level of output that I do. The good thing about writing a diary is that I can take my time, I can look up words. Again, it's not like I'm learning new words, I'm just learning the words I already know. So once I look them up, it's like, oh yeah, I got it now, and then I can keep using it in my diary.
And on top of that, during that stream, I watched some YouTube videos and then I tried to summarize them as like an output practice, which was really difficult, and it sounded like this.
Gå till han säger att han ska gå till den sämsta McDonald'sen i Sverige, men i den andra videon talas om iranier i Sverige. Han ska tala gängskriminella. Nej, andra människor.
And apparently there's also a new Netflix film that's come out in Swedish. Swedish things on Netflix have been hit or miss for me personally. I prefer Norwegian things a lot more. But you know what? I'll check that out as well. And by the time you see this, well, I'll probably be in Reykjavik already, but you'll see if I've done that. Well, to wrap this up, this is going to be an interesting challenge. I am never a person to say no to a challenge just because it's difficult, especially when it comes to language learning. I thought I could probably do that. In a way, I am learning two languages at the same time that are very similar, which is a big no-no in terms of what I tell people what to do and what not to do in language learning. But it is what it is. Sometimes life gives you lemons and you learn Icelandic. That's just how it is. So if you made it this far in the video and you haven't subscribed, just do it now. You know what to look forward to. I've already spoiled some of the things that I'm thinking of doing. If you know my channel, you know my style. If you don't, watch this video or this video that you probably will enjoy very much. And that's it. Big thanks to Kamil for supporting the channel as a channel member on the all the way tier. If you want your name shouted out as well, become a channel member. Just click all the links and things below. You know the deal. You've been on YouTube for a while. You know Iceland's really expensive and I'm probably not making much money from this. So, you know, help me out. Thank you very much. And then I'll see you in Reykjavik. Bye.